Hi, guys, and welcome to the Horror Room. So, this week I decided that we're going to pit two directors against each other and to find out once and for all who's the better horror director. This might be something that I do in the future again. We'll probably do some like bigger names, but I thought I would start with two of the most controversial directors in the horror genre, to say the least. We're talking about Eli Roth and Rob Zombie. Both of them have a very divisive fan base and a very, very divisive filmography. Um, and both of them have dabbled in non horror stuff. Rob Zombie to a lesser degree. I mean, he's done family friendly movies. So has Eli Roth, but Eli Roth's done a lot more mainstream stuff, like he did the Borderlands movie, I guess, if you want to count that. But we're not counting that. I figured what I would do for this is I'm going to pick five movies from each director. I'm going to tell you some of the facts about how much money they grossed, what the audience score, basically what they thought of these movies, and then my opinion on which movie, because we're going to do five. We're going to do this movie versus this movie. Which one I think out of those two is honestly, in my opinion, the better of the two. And I'll give you my reasons why. So, first off, we're going to be talking about 2003's Cabin Fever by Eli Roth and 2003's House of a Thousand Corpses by Rob Zombie. So, both of these directors had a movie out in 2003. Now, Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses was in development a lot earlier, at least to my knowledge, than Cabin Fever. Um, but it got pushed back until Lionsgate, of course, bought the rights. Um, Now let's talk cold hard cash because that's king. Um, so Cabin Fever had a production budget of 1.5 million and made 43 million dollars total worldwide. That's insane. So it basically they paid a fraction when you talk about like a no budget movie that explodes and for it to be his first horror movie, that's insane. That's a pretty big increase. And Cabin Fever has a 44% audience score. So that means less than half like that movie. And I can see why. I mean, come on, pancakes, that kid, come on. But then we also have on the other end of the spectrum, House of Thousand Corpses, which had a $7 million budget and only made 16.8 million. Now that's a little over half, which isn't shabby, but nowhere near the Cabin Fever numbers, which I honestly am very surprised by. I didn't even know those numbers. Um, but House of a Thousand Corpses does have the higher audience score. It is 65%. And I can see why. I mean, it gives you the kind of classic Texas chainsaw vibes. You got the crazy family. You got the kids going to the gas station. They get lost in a weird house. But there is a lot of charm to it, even though it does have some moments in the movie that are kind of goofy. And even Rob Zombie has stated that this is his least favorite movie. I imagine it has more to do with like the development hell that the movie got stuck in rather than his personal perception of it. But he did go to rewrite some of the characters. I know Otis was a big one that got a rewrite because in the first movie, he's more like conspiracy theorist, and in the second and third movies, he's very like toned down in terms of that. He's more like just crazy killer guy. Um, but anyways, out of these two films, which one do I prefer? Cabin Fever or House of a Thousand Corpses? Now, I'm not a huge Rob Zombie fan. I'm not a huge Eli Roth fan. I like a lot of their movies differently, and if you pit any of these movies on this list against different movies, I'll probably say something different each time. But we're going down the line. These five versus five. Cabin Fever, House of Thousand Corpses. I gotta give it to House of Thousand Corpses. For two reasons, two main reasons for me. One, if you know anything about the early days of DVDs and interactivity, then you gotta know how awesome and fun the House of a Thousand Corpses DVD is. And if you've never experienced it, give it a try. I can't guarantee that it's on the Blu-ray or the 4K releases. It wouldn't surprise me if they just did a bare still image and like the buttons. But the interactivity on the original DVD is amazing. As soon as you start it, Captain Spaulding's there, and you can sit there for, I think it's like 15 minutes, and he's just talking and cracking jokes and being an asshole and telling you, pick a damn option. You go to special features, and I think it's Baby. Not too great. And I can't remember which one Otis is in. I don't know. I think Otis is maybe in the language menu, which is kind of weird. Like, I don't know. Because chapter select is just chapter select. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a great DVD menu. But secondly, the reason that I love House of a Thousand Corpses is the aesthetic of the whole damn movie. It just screams Halloween vibes. Honestly, I think it's the most beautiful in terms of, the aesthetics of all of Rob Zombie's films, because everything about that movie just screams Halloween. So I think it's a great movie. And of course, I'm going to choose House of a Thousand Corpses in that regard. Next, we're doing 2006 Hostel versus 2005 Devil Rejects, or The Devil's Rejects. So Devil's Rejects came out first, which is surprising. I could have sworn that Hostel came out first. I thought the dates were swapped. So we'll do it in terms of the dates. So Devil's Rejects came out first. It had a $7 million budget, so same amount that House of a Thousand Corpses had, but it got $20.9 million in returns. So definitely almost 3 times as much. Pretty good, but nowhere near Hostel's numbers. Holy shit. We're going to get to that in a second. But right now, the audience score is significantly higher, 78%. I can probably guess the other 22% where that went, especially if it comes to the DVD release of this movie, but we'll get to that. And then we have 2006 Hostel. Had a $4.8 million budget. So already it looks like the budget was tripled from Cabin Fever. And I don't doubt it. They only did 1.5 million and returned 43 million. They were like, here's a couple million. Let's see what you do with that. And by God, they did it. 82 million worldwide. That's insane. Like, I mean, for a horror movie, you've got to think. Like, there's way bigger budget or bigger movies out there, but that's not too shabby, especially compared to Rob Zombie's first 2 movies. Like, Eli Roth's first two movies were like striking gold, apparently. And the audience score is a little higher. It looks like about half of the people liked it, 53%. Now, I can see why for that as well, because the story is a little slow, doesn't really kick up till like the last 40 minutes or so. Unless you're really into like the, fucking, what's it called? Amsterdam and clubs and, young backpackers just being horny, I guess. But, so Hostel versus Devil's Rejects. This is really tough. I really do. I love Devil's Rejects. I think that is my favorite Rob Zombie movie. But if you put it up against Hostel, I think I'm going to have to give it to Hostel, because as much as I don't like the first half of that movie, once you get into the snuff ring that they're running and they got all these people and they're trying to torture them. I can't remember the guy's name, but when he's like talking to him and he's like, yeah, should I just go in there and like, just kill him, just shoot him? And the guy's like, yeah, because he's trying to convince him, like, don't make these people suffer. And he's like, no, fuck that. I'm going to get my money's worth, because it's like rich people paying to do this. And without giving too much away, but like the last 15 to 10 minutes are really rough. Like, oh gosh. And And I think Hostel just has a bigger sense of dread because you're like, oh my god, anything could be around the corner. Whereas in Devil's Rejects, it's all out in the sunlight. Yeah, it's grimy, it's gritty, but there's a lot of cheap laughs in it. It's more of the same story, and they really do try and get you to love these three, even though they're terrible people. Especially, like I said, if you've seen the DVD of Devil's Rejects, they add. I guess it's just a Rob Zombie thing, but he feels the need, like, hey, an unrated movie means more rape scenes. Yeah, and we don't need that. See, I probably shouldn't even have said that. I probably should have essay. I'm not going to censor myself for this. But yeah, Hostel has its uncomfortable moments, but you're really rooting for good people. You're rooting for them to survive and get away. Um, Now, I'm not doing. I didn't even. I don't even know if I told you what movies I'm doing. I just started in on it, did I? Now, if you know the filmography of Eli Roth and Rob Zombie, you know there's a lot of different choices, especially for horror, that I could choose. I did choose one outlier for each director. Um, but let me just tell you what we got for each director. I know it's like halfway through the video, but for Eli Roth, I chose Cabin Fever, Hostel, Green Inferno, Knock Knock, and Thanksgiving. And for Rob Zombie, I chose House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, Rob Zombie's Halloween, 31, and The Monsters. Yeah, I know. We'll get to that. So we're about halfway through. So let's keep this going. Again, we're going to stick to the earlier dates. And I will let you know if there's a significant gap, at least between main movies that I noticed. For Eli Roth, it's a little iffy. I know he did more in between some of them. Like, well, 2006 to 2015, I guarantee he had to have done something. Well, yeah, Hostel too, and I didn't include that. So I'm just kind of like, giving you a rough estimate of how long it's taken them to get back in the directing chair. But anyways, 2007, Rob Zombie's Halloween. $15 million budget. That's really not too shabby. And I mean, I guess it has to do with the property. They saw that, the House of Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects movies were doing good. So they gave him $15 million, and he turned that around to $80.3 million. That's still not as high as Eli Roth's highest amount, but it's pretty damn close, and I can see why. It's Halloween. Of course, people are going to flock to theaters to see that. You have an audience score of 59%. That's a little lower than both of his first two films, honestly. And yeah, it's Halloween is a very divisive film between Rob Zombie fans and Halloween fans, and just horror fans in general. But then we have from 2007 Halloween and 2006's Hostel, what we last talked about. 2015 Green Inferno, huge jump. Like I said, he did some other stuff. I could have done Hostel too, but I wanted to choose something different. Only reason I did House of Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects, even though those are sequels, is they're completely tonally different, so it makes sense. Hostel 2, kind of just more of the same. But 2015's Green Inferno had a $5 million budget, made $12.9 million back. Now, that is a very significant drop from the last two movies that you saw. They paid a fraction and increased it. And they probably thought, hey, we'll give Eli Roth a little bit of extra money, $5 million. Maybe you can turn it to $90 million. Didn't work this time. And I have my own theories about that. But we'll get to that. And it has an audience score of 30%. Definitely not the lowest on Eli Roth's side, but the lowest so far. And I can see why. So, first off, let's talk about Rob Zombie's Halloween. Now, this is one that I was personally excited to go see in theaters because the remake boom was happening, and I saw Rob Zombie's films, and I was like, you know what? I'm really ready for this. I'm excited. And the last movie that Halloween fans had was Resurrection. So needless to say, although it was a fine theater experience, it didn't leave the best taste in my mouth. We'll get to more of that Well, actually, I can tell you right now. I mean, I'm about to be choosing anyways. Um, it's just that first half of the movie. Um, I used to think it was the second half that bothered me because they're just remaking every shot for shot, and that's not even true. But they're doing all the same old shit and just rushing through it. And the first half was like all original and neat. I think the only part of the first half that I actually legitimately like is the stuff in Smith's Grove with young Michael and Dr. Loomis. Even though I'm no offense to the actor, I'm not a fan of that young Michael. I prefer the silent, you don't know what's on his mind. Not the screaming, crying Michael that's a bully. No, I get out of here. Plus, you got the whole family angle, which Rob Zombie's always, putting people or making people characters in his movies these impoverished, like crazy, just scum of the earth, like a Rob Zombie song. Um, but on Halloween, it really stands out because there's nothing like that in the original, and I get it. It's a new envisionment, but still. Um, so it is the second half of the movie that I do intend to enjoy a little more. Um, and Michael Myers, the actor Tyler Mane, plays him very well. He's very imposing. He's very scary. He's just not. He doesn't have that like shadowiness, like that essence in the original. It's just like giant, violent man coming for you. Like that's scary, but it's not the true essence of Michael Myers, in my opinion. Um, then let's go to Green Inferno. Now, this is another movie that I was very excited to see because Eli Roth claimed, oh, we're bringing back the cannibal genre. Get ready to be disgusted and shocked. And from what little I saw, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. This guy knows horror. I saw Hostel, and Hostel was very disturbing. What can he do with the cannibal genre? Not a lot, apparently. The plot is very vapid. It's just there to get them to the jungle, um, which most cannibal films don't have great stories except for Slave of the Cannibal Gods. That's a good one. I like that one a lot. And I guess to a degree, Cannibal Ferox or Cannibal Ferox, Cannibal Holocaust. Um, but the story in Green Inferno is just hardly there. Um, and most of the graphic scenes take place instantly as soon as they're captured. After that, it just becomes a slog to get through. Like, you're like, oh, I don't care if these people live or die. Nobody's really likable. And there's that really dumb ending that kind of tries to set up a sequel. Like, I don't know. It's just really weird out of nowhere. And Green Inferno was a big letdown. I've always suspected for years that maybe they intended to push it a lot further, but it didn't get past the script writing phase. And people were like, no, 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 we cannot do stuff like this in a film, even if it's fake. I don't know. I hope that that's the reason that this is the movie we got. But even then, I feel like, why would Eli Roth compromise his vision of a true cannibal film? I guess if there's money involved, maybe that's the answer right there. So if you're asking me to pick between Green Inferno and Halloween, I gotta give it to Halloween because Halloween at least is more fun. Um, there's some bad parts in Halloween. Don't get me wrong. Like the first 40 minutes are pretty hard to sit through. And again, if you're watching it on DVD, Michael Myers isn't the one doing it, but there's other people doing assaults, and Michael kills them, and it's like, okay, well, I guess, thank you, but we didn't really need to have more villains for Michael to kill. Like, he just kills. So yeah, I would say Halloween is the more entertaining that I prefer out of the two. Next, we're talking about 2015's Knock Knock. Now, this is a very interesting movie. This is more of a thriller kind of suspense. It's not a straight horror movie, so this is the outlier in Eli Roth's category. It had a $3 million budget and a 6.3 million return, so way lower numbers than we've seen from Eli Roth before. And I think it may have had something to do with Green Inferno, but it also may have had something to do with the premise for Knock Knock, which is, two girls show up and seduce a guy, and then once they've had their way with him, they're trying to like mess around with him and ruin his life because they're like, you fucked us, so now we get to ruin your whole life. Which doesn't take away what he did. And you get a really great performance from Keanu Reeves. Some of the funniest lines that are delivered without supposing to be funny, I guess, but nobody turns down free pizza. So stupid. And the ending. I'm sorry, but if you're not hysterically laughing at the ending, we can't be friends. Um, but Knock Knock has an audience score of 19%. That's the lowest of any of these Eli Roth movies. And I get it. It's probably not everyone's cup of tea. Probably what everyone was thinking it was going to be more graphic or suspenseful. And it's kind of just these dumb young girls that are like, oh, we're going to play a game. We're going to film you. And Keanu Reeves going, oh, you've gonna ruin my family, my life. Like, I don't know, overacting, but I think it's fun. And then you have 2016 Rob Zombie's 31. Now, this is another movie that kind of was hyped up. You're like, oh, it's gonna be a horror, Halloween, clowns. They really, really hyped up the clown stuff. And I mean, there are a lot of clowns in the movie, except for one. He's not a fucking clown. Um, but 31 had a budget of 1.5 million, the lowest budget so far on this list. And it only had 92 or 923,000, and that's rounded up estimated sales for DVDs. Because I don't think 31 got a theatrical release. I think it was direct to video. So that's kind of the bummer, is you start seeing Rob Zombie's films going from theaters to direct to video. Also, there's no way to account for streaming and stuff like that. So this is pure estimation, but it's the research that I found. 31 has a 36% audience score, way lower than Rob Zombie's other films, but not the lowest, and not as low as Knock Knock. So if you're pitting 31 and Knock Knock up against each other, I'm going to choose 31, and I'll tell you why. It's probably pretty obvious, but Knock Knock's not a horror movie. It is entertaining, but this is one of Rob Zombie's more interesting movies. You could say it's kind of a no-plot movie. And yeah, I agree. There's literally no plot. Just people get kidnapped, they have to survive. That's it. Have fun. And boy, if you can have fun with that premise, you're going to have fun. Now, the characters, it's a little iffy. It's, again, one of those movies where you're more on the side of the killers because they're more interesting. The main characters, including Sherry Moon Zombie, of course, because she has to star in all of his movies, are really not that interesting. There's another guy, I can't remember his name, but I want to say he's the same guy who's in... He's in a lot of Rob Zombie movies. He's in Three from Hell. I know he's in The Monster. I think it's Daniel Roebuck. I think. I could be getting these names mixed up. I probably am. It's a guy with the mutton chops and the gold teeth and the aviators. I swear to God, that guy always looks like the lead singer of Foo Fighters to me. And it always throws me off. But 31, the main reason, let's cut through the bullshit. Aside from, the amazing soundtrack. The main reason that anyone who watches 31 and loves it is Doomhead. Doomhead is fantastic. Richard Brake's performance. Why was this guy not in more movies from the beginning? Yes, he's in H2 as the shitty paramedic with his bad joke. He's in Three from Hell as the replacement for Captain Spaulding. He does an okay job, but it just doesn't feel the same. But in 31, Richard Brake gets his chance to shine as Doomhead, and any scene he's in, he is chewing the hell out of it because it's basically like the Joker on crack. So yeah, of course I'm going to give it to 31. Um, and last but not least, we get to the final two movies on this list. We have 2022's The Munsters by Rob Zombie. Now, this one I could not find the budget, but I did find a quote, and this is from Rob Zombie himself, I'm pretty sure. The budget was so low that combining it with the budgets of three of my other films would not even reach 30 mil. So, and we've seen the amounts on this list. The highest amount that I have is 15 million. So he's saying if I combined House of Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, and Halloween, that's 29 million right there. So we're talking maybe $50,000. There's no way. I saw it's got to be some different movies. So it's got to be like maybe House, Devils, and 31. That sounds a little more because they did recreate the monster's house and stuff, even though it's barely in the fucking movie. Um, and the set design, I will say, like I've seen other people admire, the set design for the Monsters movie is good. The characters look like who they're supposed to look like. It's just a very boring, dumb movie. And I get it. It's a G-rated Rob Zombie movie. It's like, how did we get here? And I get it. He loves the monsters, but the last thing he loved, which was Halloween, and he touched. Oh, maybe this guy should get some new loves in his life. Now, the budget it made, again, these are just DVD sale numbers because we don't have streaming info, nothing like that. This was not in theaters. I think it maybe was in select theaters. But this one is even lower than 31. 31 was 923,000. The Monsters only has 236,000. Damn. That's I hope I don't even know if they made the budget back on that. Probably not. Um, and it's a fine movie. I wouldn't say it's very kid appropriate, not because there's anything terrible in it. It's just most kids don't know who the monsters are, let's be honest. And two, they're going to find this movie boring because it's mostly a romance movie about, uh the I fucking can't even remember his name now. The main guy, the Frankenstein looking motherfucker, the you know who I'm talking. I shouldn't have to explain myself. Anyways, so yeah, it's pretty boring for kids. But then we go to 2023's Thanksgiving. Now, this is a movie that had been hinted at since as early as 2007 with the double feature Grindhouse spectacular that was Robert Rodriguez's Planet Terror and Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof. Both films showed back to back in a Grindhouse style, over 3.5 hours long, with fake trailers, one of them being Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. And ooh, that was a primo trailer. Definitely felt very sleazy, trashy, had the nudity, had the gore, had the creep show, like Bring Me My Cake from the creep show. So it had great music, even though it was, borrowed. But it was a lot of fun. One of the best trailers in there. And I always said, man, they need to turn that into a movie. And they turned a couple other movies from the Grindhouse experience into movies like Machete, Hobo with a Shotgun, and now finally Thanksgiving. Took them long enough. But this wasn't the movie that we were promised in the original trailer. It was updated, it was toned down, but it came off pretty damn well. A lot of people were saying it reminded them of Scream. Not so much in, the parodying of like the tropes at the time, but very sleek, lots of, quick cuts and good moments and stuff. Definitely has that Eli Roth humor. Ha ha ha, Boston accents, I guess. Anyways, it had a $15 million budget. Now, how he went from $3 million with Knock Knock to $15 million for Thanksgiving, he must have pulled some favors. It might have been some of the movies he did between 2015 and 2023. One of them was, I think, a house with a clock in its walls or something stupid like that. More like a fantasy kids movie. Maybe stuff like that. Maybe that was what gave him the money to do this. Maybe he raised it. I don't remember. I didn't look it up. Anyways, so 15 million production budget, made 46.6 million back. So definitely the second highest amount. Definitely way better than the Monsters. And definitely the one that I'm going to choose over the Monsters. It has a 78 audience percentage for a reason. He didn't kill that cat. He fed it. I love that part. So there you have it. If you couldn't tell, Rob Zombie did win because I think the only ones I chose for, Eli Roth was Hostel and Thanksgiving. And honestly, those are the best two on this whole list. I know a lot of people will cry and say, "Oh, Cabin Fever's not that bad." Please rewatch the original and the remake and come talk to me because it's not. Rob Zombie, as faulted as a lot of his attempts to make certain movies have been, he definitely has the style of horror and he definitely has horror fans in mind when he makes most of his movies. Eli Roth, it seems like, his edgier stuff was early in his career, and he's definitely toned it down to go for a more mainstream acceptance. Whether or not that's great, that's up to interpretation, but I like Rob Zombie's over here saying, you know what? I think I'm going to make the Monsters in 2023. Wow, it's pretty stupid, but it's pretty bold. So who knows? Maybe the two of these guys will have another round because Eli Roth is making Thanksgiving too. There hasn't been much news about Rob Zombie making another movie. I imagine he would. I don't know why he wouldn't. I've been saying for years he just needs to take one of his song titles and run with it. Can you imagine Living Dead Girl or Super Beast the movie? Anyways, so thank you for sticking with me on this long, horribly long video. Hopefully you guys weren't bored, but I thought this was a fun idea. Let me know. Do you guys think I should do this again? Should I pit Lucio Fulci and George Romero's movies against each other? Should I pit Wes Craven and John Carpenter's movies against each other? Who knows? There's a lot of good directors out there. I could do Stuart Gordon and someone else who isn't Stuart Gordon against each other. Anyways, though, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week.